On November 4, 1979, a group of Iranian students, fueled by revolutionary fervor and a deep-seated resentment towards the United States, stormed the American embassy in Tehran. What began as a protest against the U.S. government's decision to grant asylum to the deposed Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, quickly escalated into a hostage crisis that would captivate the world for the next 444 days. This crisis not only strained diplomatic relations between the two nations, but also tested the resolve of the American government and its intelligence agencies to secure the safe release of their citizens. What were the events that unfolded on that fateful day? On the morning of November 4, 1979, a group of Iranian students, many of whom were members of the Muslim student followers of the Imam's line, gathered outside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. Their initial plan was to stage a peaceful protest against the United States' decision to admit the Shah, who had been overthrown in the Iranian Revolution earlier that year. However, the situation quickly spiraled out of control as the protesters overwhelmed the embassy's security personnel and gained entry into the compound. Once inside, the students took control of the embassy, seizing the building and taking 66 American diplomats, Marines, and civilians hostage. The hostages were bound, blindfolded, and subjected to interrogation and psychological torture. The students demanded the extradition of the Shah to Iran to face trial for his alleged crimes against the Iranian people, as well as the release of Iranian assets frozen by the U.S. government. The crisis had begun, and the world watched in disbelief as the students paraded the blindfolded hostages in front of the media, using them as bargaining chips in their demands against the United States. How did the U.S. government respond to the crisis? The Carter administration, caught off guard by the brazen act of hostage-taking, found itself in a precarious situation. On one hand, they could not acquiesce to the demands of the students, as it would set a dangerous precedent for future hostage situations and undermine the principles of diplomatic immunity. On the other hand, the safety of the hostages was of paramount concern, and any military action could potentially put their lives at risk. In the early days of the crisis, the U.S. government pursued diplomatic channels, engaging in negotiations with the Iranian government and seeking the assistance of third-party mediators. However, these efforts proved futile, as the Iranian government, led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, refused to intervene, tacitly supporting the actions of the students. As the crisis dragged on, the Carter administration grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress and the mounting public pressure to resolve the situation. It was at this point that the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, was tasked with devising a covert operation to rescue the hostages. What were the extravagant lengths the CIA went to in order to free the hostages? The CIA's rescue operation, codenamed Operation Eagle Claw, was a daring and complex plan that involved multiple military components and a high degree of secrecy. The operation was divided into 3 phases: the deployment of special operations forces to a remote desert location in Iran, the infiltration of a team of CIA operatives and military personnel into Tehran, and the extraction of the hostages from the embassy compound. To facilitate the operation, the CIA went to extraordinary lengths to establish a covert presence in Iran. They recruited a team of CIA operatives, including Antonio Mendez, a master of disguise and expert in exfiltration operations. Mendez and his team were tasked with setting up a fake film production company, complete with a cover story and elaborate props to provide a plausible reason for their presence in Iran. The CIA also acquired a fleet of specialized aircraft, including helicopters and transport planes, to support the operation. These aircraft were modified to carry out the mission, with features such as aerial refueling capabilities and specialized equipment for the rescue team. As the operation unfolded, the CIA faced numerous challenges and setbacks. The initial phase of the operation, which involved the deployment of special operations forces to a remote desert location in Iran, was plagued by logistical issues and mechanical failures. One of the helicopters experienced a hydraulic failure, forcing the mission to be aborted before it could reach Tehran. Despite this setback, the CIA remained undeterred in their efforts to secure the release of the hostages. They continued to explore various options, including the possibility of a covert rescue operation in collaboration with the Canadian government. This plan, which became known as the Canadian Caper, involved the CIA and the Canadian government working together to create a cover story and fabricate identities for the hostages. The goal was to smuggle the hostages out of Iran under the guise of a Canadian film crew scouting locations for a movie. To make the cover story believable, the CIA went to great lengths to create a fake movie production company, complete with a script, storyboards, and even a full-scale movie set. They also recruited a Hollywood makeup artist to help disguise the hostages and alter their appearances. While the Canadian Caper ultimately proved unnecessary, as the hostages were released through diplomatic channels, it showcased the CIA's willingness to explore unconventional and daring methods to secure the safe return of American citizens. How did the crisis finally come to an end? After 444 days of captivity, the hostages were finally released on January 20th, 1981, just minutes after Ronald Reagan was sworn in as the new President of the United States. The release was the result of a complex series of negotiations and agreements between the United States and Iran, facilitated by third-party mediators such as Algeria. The terms of the release included the unfreezing of Iranian assets held in U.S. banks, the transfer of Iranian assets held by U.S. banks to a third-party escrow account, and the establishment of an international tribunal to adjudicate claims between the two countries. As the hostages were released, they were flown to a U.S. Air Force base in Germany, where they received medical attention and were reunited with their families. The ordeal had taken a physical and emotional toll on the hostages, but their resilience and determination to survive had been unwavering. The Iran hostage crisis had far-reaching implications for both nations. In the United States, it was seen as a national humiliation and a blow to American prestige on the global stage. The crisis also contributed to the defeat of President Carter in the 1980 presidential election, as the public perceived his handling of the situation as weak and ineffective. In Iran, the crisis was celebrated as a victory over the Great Satan and a symbol of the country's defiance against Western imperialism. The crisis also solidified the power of the Islamic Revolution and the leadership of Ayatollah Khomeini. Today, the Iran hostage crisis remains a pivotal moment in the history of U.S.-Iranian relations, a testament to the enduring tensions and mistrust between the two nations. It also serves as a reminder of the lengths to which governments and intelligence agencies will go to protect their citizens and uphold their national interests, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. If you found this video informative, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more content. Thank you.